Welcome in. It's the Monday after a 49ers win. And my question is simple. Was that the 49ers' most complete showing of 2022? Because this is not uncommon. Social media has it all wrong. This was a really impressive win for the 49ers. This was a playoff style win against a solid defensive front where a lot didn't line up for the 49ers, especially the fact that they were playing on low sleep, short week, coming off a ton of altitude exposure in Colorado and Mexico City. The 49ers, they still ground out a shutout, and they had to grind it out. It wasn't an overwhelming shutout. They still found a way to shut out the Saints. And offensively, despite the fact that they were beleaguered along the offensive line and they gave up a ton of pressure to New Orleans, and this is something that the 49ers absolutely must fix, they still managed a gritty performance that scrounged together enough efficiency to set the table for this shutout because you need both sides of the football. In fact, you need all three phases of the game to put up a goose egg in the NFL. This was the first time in 333 games. The Saints hadn't been shut out in 332 straight games, which was the longest active streak in the NFL. So, what the 49ers did yesterday was special. The defense obviously led the charge, but complementary football is the only way to be. It is the best way to be. And the 49ers did deliver enough complementary football to register that first shutout against the Saints in 333 games. It was the 2001 season, final week of the 2001 season. I believe Julian Peterson, the linebacker, was on that 49ers defense. Aaron Brooks was the Saints quarterback. They shut them out 38-0 to finish that year. Drew Brees later came over to the Saints. They didn't get shut out during that entire stretch of football while Drew was in New Orleans. But now Drew Brees is retired. And yesterday, with Andy Dalton at quarterback, the 49ers held the Saints to the goose egg, which was really, really impressive. I talked about the goal line stands, or actually, if I want to be specifically correct, I wrote about the goal line stands that the 49ers defense delivered to preserve that shutout in the Athletic yesterday. So why don't you go ahead and subscribe, check it out. I'm going to put it into the comment section right now. And all of you can later on take a look at the description, unless Mike is able to put this in the description before then. This article right here is up on The Athletic. That is the link for you. I believe we've got the dollar for the every month sale going on right now, again, at The Athletic before Christmas. So be sure to check that out. But it's how the 49ers defense-wide ferocity at the goal line blanked the Saints. But there was a whole lot more than just defense in this game for the 49ers. And, social media, fantasy football, video game mentality tends to oversimplify everything. People think that the 49ers should be scoring 35 points per game, no problem, all the time. And I'm sorry, that's just not how football works, especially in the NFL. Here's the bottom line. The 49ers won this game by 13 points. That is the most you can expect in the NFL. Winning by 2 possessions in this league, that's like a threshold of dominance that you would predict if you think that one team is clearly superior to another. This is a league of parity. It's got a salary cap and it has a draft. This isn't college football where there are style points where a great team is beating bad teams by 20 to 30 points every week. There's parity in the NFL. These are all professionals. And if you're winning games by 13 points, if you win every single game by 13 points, you're going to be the most dominant team in NFL history. I predicted that the 49ers would beat the Saints by 13. My prediction was 49ers 30, Saints 17. I was obviously exactly right about the margin. I wasn't right about the amount of points that the 49ers offense would score and the amount of points the 49ers defense would let up. But here are the two things that went straight from my prediction. I did not correctly factor in the toll that the altitude and the short week would take on both the 49ers offensive and defensive lines. And I also did not anticipate the 49ers defense overcoming the toll that the altitude and the lack of rest took on their defensive line, right? So those are the two things. This is why we play the games. I can make all the predictions I want. I thought the 49ers were 13 points better than the Saints. I was correct. But we play the game so we can see what actually materializes, who steps up to change some of those margins, who's going to be the hero. You don't know that stuff going in. And the 49ers' problem on offense was not Jimmy Garoppolo. The 49ers' problem on offense was the offensive line. They gave up way too much interior pressure. But, within this issue was the best news for the 49ers. And that is that Jimmy Garoppolo still played well, despite the fact that the 49ers gave up pressure right after the gut. The 49ers gave up 20 total pressures. That was the highest amount of the season. And 12 of those 20 pressures came from Saints defensive tackles, including former 49er Kentavious Street, who led all New Orleans pass rushers with 5 pressures. But they had Shai Tuttle up there. They had David Onyemata up there. They had a lot of guys generating pressure. And since 12 of those 20 pressures came against the 49ers guards and center, including 7 against Aaron Banks, this was Aaron Banks' worst pass protecting performance of his career. That pressure was on Jimmy Garoppolo in a hurry. There's a difference between edge pressure, because a quarterback can maybe take a few steps away from it, roll out a little bit, and interior pressure. It's a whole lot harder to not make a mistake against interior pressure. And that's where the majority of the Saints' pass rushing success came. So it was remarkable that Jimmy Garoppolo played a mistake-free game. And please don't go and tell me that he threw an interception but was bailed out, because the interception wouldn't have happened if the Saints did not commit an illegal act on the play. It was illegal contact against Ray McCloud. The throw was right where McCloud would have been had it not been for legal contact. The officials correctly threw the flag. The interception did not count. Jimmy Garoppolo's now gone 4 straight games without throwing a pick. That is a career high. He previously, before the season, hadn't gone 3 without throwing an interception. And he played very, very efficient volume passing football, despite the fact that there was pressure up the gut all day. And that's a huge, huge boon for the 49ers, because that had previously been Jimmy Garoppolo's kryptonite, right? We looked at games against Grady Jarrett and the Falcons, which was a similar kind of tempo game to this one in 2019. We look at games like the Super Bowl, Chris Jones against the 49ers eating right guard alive. Those were the games where Jimmy Garoppolo had committed some mistakes because interior pressure got on him way too quickly. Well, now the difference between Jimmy in the past and Jimmy now is that the interception rate is so much lower, and he's not letting interior pressure phase him. We talked about how good 49ers pass protection had been entering this game. That had been true, and a lot of people had theorized, well, that's why Jimmy Garoppolo is not throwing interceptions, is because he's not getting pressured as much, especially up the middle. But yesterday, that was put to the test, because the 49ers gave up way too much interior pressure. Their left guard, Aaron Banks, who still hasn't given up a sack yet this year, gave up 7 pressures, which is a lot in a game. But Garoppolo still managed to play well despite that, which is really, really good news for the 49ers, because it shows that their offensive formula can sustainably deliver efficient football, even if stuff isn't going perfectly well up front. And that's a problem that you're going to run into in December and moving into the playoffs. So that's a huge takeaway from this game. A lot of people they just don't get it. A lot of people just don't get it. They see 13 points and they say, oh, the quarterback played bad. I'm sorry. Football's not that simple. 49ers have a quarterback that's playing top 5 football right now. And that top 5 football happened even with the offensive line in front of him faltering yesterday. Now, do the 49ers have to fix their offensive line? Absolutely. But were there plausible reasons for the struggles yesterday, the short week? I mean, if you look at altitude, short week, sleep deprivation, all the things that make you physically weaker for a game, all the things that, you're concerned about, who are they going to affect most? The answer to that question is they're going to affect the players who have to deal with the most physical combat the most. So your offensive and defensive lines are probably going to suffer the most in those situations. And look at exactly what happened. 49ers gave up a season-high 20 pressures along the offensive line. Aaron Banks gave up 7 of them. And the 49ers defensive line only notched 1 sack. Season low, 1 sack. So it's not shocking that the 49ers struggled the most in those trench positions because of the setup of the game that we saw yesterday, because of the short rest and because of all that. But you can't automatically equate 13 points with bad QB play. The overarching takeaway here is the 49ers played excellent defense, and we'll get to that in a bit. And they had good QB play and good skill position play to go along with that quarterback play. And that formula allowed them to play what was possibly their most balanced game of the season. I have a stat for you right here. They have expected points added per play, positive or negative. This is on Pro Football Reference. And they have it in all listed in all three phases of the game: offense, defense, and special teams. The 49ers, up until this game against the Saints, had not delivered a game in the positive offensively, defensively, and on special teams simultaneously. They had done offense and defense, but special teams was negative. They had special teams be positive, but have offense negative and defense positive, or vice versa, offense positive and defense negative. For example, the Denver game, you had negative offense. I mean, they were way in the negatives on offense. They were terrible offensively. Defense was way up positively, but they lost the game by a point. Kansas City, offense was in the plus, right? Offense was positive against Kansas City. Defense was like minus 30 expected points. Defense was horrific against Kansas City. It was one of the 49ers' worst defensive performances in quite some time. Well, this game against the New Orleans Saints, the 49ers were plus 2 points offense, so a little bit above average on offense, but the offense didn't hold them back. Offense generated some expected points. They're plus 8.2 points on defense, so the defense was very good, generated over a touchdown worth of points, and they're plus 2.2 on special teams. It was the first game of the season in which the 49ers were positive across the board: offense, defense, and special teams. And you're looking to play complementary football, and I think that the 49ers definitely did that in this football game, despite their struggles up front. You know, two things can be true at once. You can have struggles up front, and you could still deliver efficient football. It's just a lot harder to do so sustainably. And you probably can't play dynamic football, right? The thing that the 49ers lost offensively that they didn't have against the Saints was dynamic ability, dynamic playmaking, deliveries downfield. I know Garoppolo missed one to Christian McCaffrey on the wheel route. That was probably his only real miss of the game yesterday, but he made no mistakes as far as giveaways went. So you don't expect the quarterback to be 100% perfect, but they had a chance at dynamic play when Garoppolo missed McCaffrey, but they didn't have many more chances because they played conservatively. Probably the best indicator of what Kyle Shanahan felt about his offensive line against that Saints defensive front, and the 49ers line was really struggling, was the 2nd down and 9 from the shadow of their own goalpost. The 49ers ran a quarterback sneak. Shanahan just wanted a sneak attack there to get a few yards to set up, maybe set up an easier 3rd down, but especially to set up a potential punt on 4th down. He played it really conservatively because he knew that the 49ers weren't protecting well yesterday, and he trusted his defense because they were playing really, really good football and keeping the Saints off of the scoreboard. But the overarching point remains: the 49ers yesterday lacked that dynamic capability because the pass protection wasn't where they needed to be, and it does need to improve. My question moving forward is, does somebody like Daniel Brunskill stabilize the 49ers offensive line? Because Spencer Burford, this is actually one of the bad breaks for the 49ers, and I'll get more into this when Kyle Shanahan speaks in about 4 hours. We're going to find out if Spencer Burford, who had a low ankle sprain yesterday, is going to miss any time. He had obviously already been rotating with Daniel Brunskill in a timeshare at right guard. Brunskill had actually delivered higher marks than Burford, but the 49ers were counting on Burford to develop over the course of the season and raise the ceiling of that right guard position above where it had been with Daniel Brunskill. But now Daniel Brunskill is, in all likelihood, if Burford does miss time, he's going to be the full-time guy at right guard instead of the timeshare that the 49ers have been running. And it's going to be a fascinating dynamic to see if Brunskill can help stabilize that position from some of the ups and downs that we had seen with Spencer Burford in there. Higher ceiling, lower floor for the rookie. So Shanahan's conference call is going to give up some answers on that front. But the 49ers, more than anything, need that interior line to just be better than it was yesterday. And the good news is that they have been better over the long run. I do think that the short week is the one variable that changed here, because we don't see Aaron Banks giving up 7 pressures a week. Again, Aaron Banks has been a top half guard this year in his first season starting. A lot of people owe this guy an apology, but again, two things can be true at once. He did not have a good game against the New Orleans Saints. So we'll see if Brunskill on the right side, veteran presence next to Mike McGlinchey, who was better yesterday. It was mainly the interior that gave up that pressure, but we'll see if Daniel Brunskill can help stabilize the 49ers operation, what they're doing, because it does all come down to that offensive line. You let Jimmy Garoppolo be dynamic. You allow him to stretch the field, hit some of those big passes if you pass protect well. And obviously, Kyle Shanahan also has to be in rhythm with Jimmy Garoppolo. He has to call a good game. I think the Saints were really, really disciplined out of the gate yesterday. The 49ers did well to kick that field goal in the opening drive, and that was all that the defense needed. But the 49ers did run into some brick walls, right, on first and second down. And I think that hurts the 49ers because they're better passing than they are running the football. The 49ers are a passing team. They're number 3 in pass efficiency under Garoppolo. They're number 17 in run efficiency. It's time to drop the charade, especially people analyzing this team need to drop the charade that the 49ers are somehow a run-first football team. The pass sets up the run for this football team. The pass has been way more efficient. Kyle Shanahan has even said that in the past. But what Shanahan needs to do is increase the first and second down pass rate, which he has done over the course of the past 2 weeks. Garoppolo had 21 pass attempts in the first half against Arizona, and he had 28 yesterday. That's volume passing, and he still managed to remain efficient. The issue was the 49ers were never able to bust through the disciplined Saints defense, with the exception of that, we'll say 2 drives, but 1 drive got them down to the goal line. They got stuffed at the goal line on the 4th down run to Garoppolo, but then they parlayed that into another shot at the end of the half, and Garoppolo connected with Juwan Jennings on that tip from Tyrann Mathieu. So the 49ers offense saw some explosiveness there. They developed it with a first down pass, though. Remember, this is something I was hammering home over and over again last week against Arizona. I said Shanahan needs to just let go of this idea that he's going to be able to bull his way to first down runs to set up his game plan, to set up play action. He's going to have to pass to set up the run. And he immediately did that against Arizona after 2 failed drives to open the game, right? And Garoppolo threw 21 times in the first half. He threw a pass on 14 of 15 snaps. That set the table for the run, and the 49ers were tremendously balanced. It was a virtuoso offensive performance against Arizona. They won the game 38-10. Fast forward to yesterday, they're struggling a bit against the Saints to open the game. Disciplined defense on the Saints. They're getting pressure with just 4, which is causing the 49ers a lot of trouble because you can drop 7 into coverage that way. That first down play action, it was the longest completion of the game to Brandon Ayuk. Play fake, Ayuk, deep cross, Garoppolo hits him. Nice crisp throw. That's what got the 49ers going a bit there at the end of the first half. That's what was really big. They took the 10-0 lead. It opened up the Saints defense. They didn't know it was coming. We saw some big Elijah Mitchell runs to pair with that, right? That one where he bounced outside was especially impressive, making something out of nothing. And then obviously the Jennings touchdown sealed it. In the second half, I think that's when Garoppolo might have gotten a little bit hurt, right? Dirty hit came in. That really dirty hit. Garoppolo was upset about that after the game, almost took out his knee. He looked to be in a lot of pain. 49ers offense crawled into a bit of a shell. But let's not forget that the 49ers offense crawled out of its shell to seal this game with 5 first downs down the stretch, and Jordan Mason averaging 5 yards per carry because Mitchell got hurt and McCaffrey was undergoing some knee irritation. So we probably see a lot more of Jordan Mason moving forward. But when I talk about the 49ers offensive line giving up too much interior pressure, not run blocking well enough, I have to put an asterisk next to that because these guys showed up on the final 6-minute drive to end this game. They ground some meat. Remember, Jim Harbaugh would always say, let's grind some meat, boys. It's time to go out there, grind some meat, end this game. 49ers offensive line absolutely did that down the stretch to seal this victory. And they get credit for that. And Jordan Mason gets a whole lot of credit for that, for running as hard as he did. And I think that's going to make the 49ers a better team moving forward because we're really going to be monitoring the health situations of Elijah Mitchell and Christian McCaffrey. Let's flip it over to the defensive side of the ball. Talk a little bit about the unit that posted the shutout yesterday. That was the locomotive that pulled the train for the 49ers. Fred Warner is an absolute monster. Fred Warner had a pass breakup yesterday in the end zone. It was a huge pass breakup, one of those goal line stands. Fred Warner had 5 tackles. Fred Warner had 1 blitz and it hit in the second half. And that's something I know I've been repeating a lot about D'Amico Ryans. He'll run these probe blitzes in the first half. Second drive, first play for the Saints, it was a probe blitz. It was Talanoa Hufanga and another defender coming off the far side. And you saw Andy Dalton hit the tight end for a relatively big gain, especially considering the more plodding pace of the game yesterday. And, a probe blitz, it might work, but it probably won't because You haven't really identified a defense or an offense's weakness yet. You're just going to see how they react to the blitz. So that way you can use it to scheme something up that works later in the game. And over the course of this 4-game second half shutout streak, DeMeco Ryans has run a lot of pro blitzes in the first half. And these pro blitzes, even though they haven't necessarily hit in the first half, he has constantly and consistently taken the lessons that he's learned from them to apply to the second half. And when Ryans has run blitzes in the second half over this success streak, they have invariably worked. And yesterday they ran one on third down against the Saints where Fred Warner just shot right up one of the interior gaps and got to Andy Dalton in about 1.2 seconds. And Dalton essentially just had to throw the ball away. Forced a fourth down. Ryan Ramczyk, the right tackle, due to the crowd noise at Levi's Stadium, false started. Then the Saints decided to kick a field goal. Will Lutz missed that field goal. Shutout was preserved until the next 2 goal line stands when the 49ers preserved the shutout again. But Fred Warner has turned into a total monster in the blitz game. He was 1 for 1 in terms of pressure rate yesterday. It still maintains his best pressure rate of his career. He broke up a pass near the goal line. He logged 5 tackles. Remember, he's got the radio in his helmet for the 49ers defense. Warner has been sensational. Then there's more going on. The 49ers have the Eric Armstead effect coming. Armstead was back out at practice for the 49ers on Sunday. That's obviously significant news because, I talked about Hassan Ridgeway being the unheralded hero for the 49ers because he knocked Juwan Johnson off of the football in the end zone. That could have been a lucky touchdown for the Saints, but Ridgeway's hustle and, was an embodiment of all the great defensive tackle reserve play that the 49ers have been getting in this second half shutout streak. But, Eric Armstead is worth at least 10 sacks per year, maybe more. That's another casual football take that, Eric Armstead doesn't have enough sacks, so he must not be worth as much as DeForest Buckner. Eric Armstead is worth more than DeForest Buckner. Eric Armstead is the top run defending hybrid defensive tackle in football. Let's put it that way. You got DJ Jones, obviously. He's with Denver now. He led the league in pass, run block, run stop win rate last year. He's leading the league in run stop win rate this year. But Eric Armstead was number 2 behind him last season. And Armstead can play outside and he can play inside. We've seen him deliver 10 sacks for the 49ers in 2019. And we also see him clearing space in the middle like a pass rusher. He's not just a fire hydrant that could plug the run. He's such a physical, presence, right? At 6'8" or 6'9" or however tall he is. I think he's 6'8", somewhere between 6'7" and 6'8", that he just clears these wide paths. And then Nick Bosa, Sansa Mebicom, Charles Omenihu, all those guys feast because of it. Just because Eric Armstead doesn't register 10 sacks a season himself because he's rushing against the inside and double teams doesn't mean that he generates 10-plus sack opportunities for other players. So there's a reason why the 49ers offense or defense surged last year. And it was because Eric Armstead moved inside, stopped all these run games, and also opened up one-on-one opportunities for the edge rushers on the outside. Now, the 49ers haven't had that this year because Armstead's got the chip in his fibula and he's got the plantar fasciitis on the other leg and the other foot, but he was back out of practice moving well on Friday, and that return is potentially coming. And I'll tell you what, the 49ers have circled this Week 13 game against the Miami Dolphins, the number 1 DVOA quarterback in football, and Tua Tagovailoa. They've circled that as a potential return for Eric Armstead. So we'll see if this week that ends up happening because that could be a total game changer for the 49ers defense, which is obviously already playing well. They're shutting opponents out, but we haven't seen that type of overpowering pass rush that we did in 2019. And a lot of that is because Eric Armstead hasn't been on the field for this football team. We'll also see if they potentially open the IR practice window for Javon Kinlaw. But it's been, this is the last outstanding piece right now that the 49ers are waiting for. They're relatively healthy. I get it. In 3.5 hours, we'll talk to Kyle Shanahan. We'll see what the injury bill from this past game against the Saints is. There might be some surprises on it. But in general, the 49ers have been trending toward health with that Eric Armstead effect, whenever that comes, scheduled to be the biggest boost yet to this 49ers defense. You also have to talk about Ward squared. And by that, I mean both Wards. Charvarius Ward, the cornerback, he's consistently been and he remains and he's, further establishing his stranglehold on the top run defense at the cornerback position in the NFL. And you can, extend that beyond just cornerback to all DBs. Charvarius Ward has been the best run defending DB in the NFL. He's yet to miss a tackle this season. His average depth of tackle is really close to the line of scrimmage, only 3 or 4 yards away from the line of scrimmage, which is excellent for a cornerback. He's also good in pass coverage. He's only given up about 30 passing yards per game, and that includes the disastrous performance against Kansas City where he didn't get to practice all week, right? He pushed himself to play, gave up 104 receiving yards. Outside of that game, Charvarius Ward is allowing in the 20s yardage-wise as far as receiving yards allowed by a cornerback. So he's been really good in pass coverage. He's been worth every penny in that regard. But his run defense, the importance of that in the context of the 49ers scheme, because they love to bring those corners up to play physical. This team wants to take away the run first and foremost. They're the number one run defense in football. In the context of the 49ers scheme, what Charvarius Ward has done has been extremely, extremely important. And what Jimmy Ward is doing now is also extremely important because he had so many people complaining about Ward. Oh, he needs to be at safety. That's the more natural position, ignoring the fact that Ward is the 49ers' best option at nickelback. Because of how this depth situation has worked and the injuries that have happened, the 49ers need Ward at nickel, and then they need Tashaun Gipson and Talanoa Hufanga, as long as they're healthy, to be a good safety combination, which they obviously have been. So that leaves the spot where Ward makes most sense to be the nickelback spot. And people were like, oh, well, Jimmy Ward's not comfortable at nickel. Well, no shit. Of course he's not comfortable at nickel if that's a new position for him, if he's been playing safety for several years. But in that safety list of duties that we have seen from Jimmy Ward, he was often asked to come down to the line of scrimmage and face off man-to-man against some of the best receivers in football, including Cooper Kupp. So it just stood to reason that it would take Jimmy Ward some time to find full-time comfort at the nickelback position. And yesterday when he broke up that pass it was Chris Olave working out of the slot. Andy Dalton chucked one up deep. He got hit on the play. That could have been a very damaging play against the 49ers defense. Jimmy Ward was all over it in coverage. And I think it's clear that he's getting better from week to week in that slot position. And Jimmy Ward has expressed in the locker room that he just needed time to get used to that position. He's willing to do this for the team. It's almost like the fans are less willing for Jimmy Ward to play the position that he clearly needs to play than Jimmy Ward himself. But he's made a good sacrifice for the team, and now he's playing better than he ever has at that slot cornerback position. 49ers have logged a defensive shutout because of it, and hopefully we can stop getting that ridiculous narrative of the 49ers need to force Jimmy Ward into the safety position and then have nobody, experienced ready for the all-important slot position. Samuel Womack is the man of the future there, but the man of the present is Jimmy Ward. You don't disrespect Jimmy Ward by saying that you'd rather have a rookie in the all-important nickelback position. I mean, it's so vital in today's NFL, and it's ridiculous to suggest that Jimmy Ward wouldn't be the best person for that job with a little bit of polish, right? With a little bit of time to get his nickel legs underneath him, and we're seeing him get those nickel legs underneath him. Yesterday was a good example. Finally, Dre Greenlaw at the goal line. We talked about this for years now, right? Against Seattle, famous play in 2019 to deliver it to the goal line. Remember in 2020 against Washington, it wasn't at the goal line, but Dre Greenlaw right in front of the line. The game saved the game for the 49ers. I know they ended up losing it, but that was because of the offense. It wasn't because of a Dre Greenlaw shortcoming. He made a tackle right before the line of the game to force a turnover on downs. He has a penchant for making stops right at the spot where the 49ers needed. And that really was the story of this defense yesterday, right? They needed to make the stops at the goal line. They bent quite a bit, but they didn't break, and they posted that shutout. And it was Greenlaw who was all over Kamara right before Hufanga came in like a missile to dislodge the football. And Greenlaw had one of the funniest quotes yesterday. And I'm going to put this up on the screen. This is the article. If you're just joining right now, be sure to check this out on The Athletic. I'll put this into the comment section right now. Dre Greenlaw said, Kamara was fighting hard into the end zone. He was really straining to get in there. I thought I was going to have to suplex him. And I wrote that, eventually, no crazy, extraordinary wrestling moves were required. No suplex was needed because Talanoa Hufanga came in and saved the day from the safety position. But boy, Greenlaw, you can count on that guy near the goal line. And that is a skill that should not be taken for granted. A lot of defenses will bend, and then they'll break once they get to the goal line because you're tired by that point. But Greenlaw embodies what I think the 49ers defense as a whole embodies, and that is just the ability to stiffen up, look your teammate in the eye, and stiffen up when you get right to that goal line and the downs mean more, right? Every single snap means more. You have to put up or shut up. And the 49ers have put up consistently whenever Dre Greenlaw's been available for this team. So I think that that's, something that we cannot ignore from the game yesterday. And finally, I think Diameter Lenore is making progress. I thought that PI call against him, covering Olave down the far sideline, was not a good one. It was ticky-tack. And I talked to Lenore after the game, and he said, against the Chargers a couple weeks ago, they threw the flag against me. And they said that it was because I didn't turn my head. I didn't look for the football. Well, this time I looked for the football and they still threw the flag. And at a certain point, you have to say, well, Lenore's young. Officials are probably going to be a little bit more flag happy, right, in situations like that. But he'll develop a reputation over time. He's playing good football. He'll get those calls. You just have to say, that's a bad break and move on. And that was a really bad break for the 49ers because there was a personal foul called against the Saints offensive lineman in the end zone, which would have meant a safety had the officials not thrown what I think was a bad pass interference penalty against Diameter Lenore. So that would have been 2 points for the 49ers defense. And it would have been, at the end of the day, maybe 15-0 in this football game instead of 13-0. But Lenore is holding down the fort right now. I know that the 49ers suffered big blows when Emmanuel Mosley got hurt, when Jason Verrett got hurt at practice, and everybody said, well, that second cornerback position is going to be a weakness. And so far, I don't think it's a glaring weakness for the 49ers. Lenore obviously isn't Charvarius Ward, but the technique is improving every week. He's quick. He's staying with receivers, and he's giving the 49ers a nice fighting chance at that second cornerback position, all while Jimmy Ward is improving at the nickelback position. And that's established a defense for the 49ers that certainly doesn't have a whole lot of holes, if any holes. And those holes, if they are there, they're filling quickly over the course of each subsequent week. That's how you had such a very good performance against the New Orleans Saints. I thought it was close to a complete team effort for the 49ers. All right, let me open it up to some questions. Why don't you make sure that you check out the article that is up on the screen? And it is time to talk some 49ers football with all of the loyal viewers in the comment section. All right, let's talk. Let's see here. You guys have left a lot of comments, and I'm looking for the questions. There's a question, are Armstead and Kinlaw playing this weekend? I think Armstead has a shot because he was back out of practice on Friday. We'll see more of hints by Wednesday, and maybe we'll see if the 49ers do activate Javon Kinlaw, at least to the practice list, right? If they give him that practice window to come off of injured reserve. But I would think that Armstead is a little bit ahead of Javon Kinlaw. Jordan Mason was awesome yesterday. 5 carries, 25 yards in a game where the 49ers were struggling to run the football. They're only like 3.4 per carry outside of Jordan Mason. That was huge. And he was running tough. He was running big. I mean, he was bowling over guys, spinning out of contact. If Elijah Mitchell's going to be out for any period of time, and it looks like he will be, we'll find out for sure here in about 3 hours. Well, Jordan Mason's going to have a role on this football team. And he was running really, really hard and really well for the 49ers in that game yesterday, and that did not go unnoticed because it came at a really important time. They iced that game away, right? Salting the game away, I guess you should say. They didn't. I mean, they're putting salt on that ice down the stretch of this football game against the New Orleans Saints, and Jordan Mason had a lot to do with it. Who's disrespecting DeForest Buckner? Somebody's mad about DeForest Buckner disrespect. How is the 49ers D-line matchup against the Dolphins O-line? That, I think, will determine the football game, and that's why I think it's so important that Eric Armstead comes back for this game, because Armstead, he's a player that turbocharges the 49ers defensive line from Good to great. He's worth, again, I think I'm convinced that Armstead, if he plays the full season like he did last year, is worth 10 plus sacks, not just for him, but for the guys around him, right? Because he clears room and he stops the run. He's such a versatile player up front. The Saints might, I mean, the Dolphins might have some issues health wise at the tackle positions. And we'll see, right? We're going to wait to see what the health situation is. We probably won't get a firmer read on that until Wednesday. But the Dolphins have a lot of team speed. And that team speed will give the 49ers trouble if Tua Tagovailoa, who's leading the league in DVOA EPA per play by a mile, he's having an awesome season, but he's had time to throw. That speed will roast you on the back end if the QB has time to throw. But the 49ers can neutralize that speed if they win up front. Do I think that Tevin Coleman gets bumped up this week? Well, if McCaffrey is hurt, if that knee irritation remains a thing and Elijah Mitchell is out, then I do think that we see Tevin Coleman get bumped up. It's all going to depend on the 49ers' health situation. Why did Kyle call Jordan Mason JP during the postgame? He does know his name. Jordan Mason's nickname is JP. They call him JP in the 49ers locker room. Jordan is his full name, and then P is his middle name. So they call him by his initials, JP. Do I think that the 49ers defense can keep Tua in the box? I mean, that's the key. You got to have a disciplined pass rush, right? If he starts moving around, the Miami Dolphins are going to have some off-schedule opportunities. Again, the Dolphins are built to kill you with speed in the same way that the 49ers are built to kill you with yak. So the 49ers are more bruising after the catch. The Dolphins are fast before and after the catch. And you have to cut off that speed at the source, and that's at the line of scrimmage. If you can get after Tua with a disciplined pass rush that chokes off pocket escape lanes, that speed doesn't really have a chance to run. And if that speed doesn't have a chance to run, you don't get burned by the Dolphins. All easier said than done, though, because the Dolphins are the number one pass offense right now in all of football. You look at what Tua is doing, and it really, really is impressive. That's Tua plus Mike McDaniel, right? We always talk about the quarterback and the play caller in cohesion. Miami already talking smack. What's my take on this game? Well, the 49ers have to beat Miami's speed. Miami thinks they're too fast for the 49ers. But the question is, can they beat the 49ers up front? It always comes down to the trenches. And yes, see Raheem Mostert talking some smack. You see Jeff Wilson Jr. talking a little bit of smack, saying he doesn't need luck for this football game. That's just how it is when players are deemed expendable by their former teams. They're probably going to be a little bit upset. Sometimes they talk, sometimes they don't. It appears that Wilson and Mostert have taken the path of talking. I'm going to probably do a separate piece on that moving forward in this week because Deebo Samuel clapped back at everybody on Twitter today. You got to love it, right? Former family members here. This was football family, and now they get to face each other in what I think is the best game of the week in the NFL. You know, take a look at this. I know I have the article up, but I also have some team tiers up. These are NFL team tiers since week 2 when we saw the 49ers switch to Jimmy Garoppolo due to the Trey Lance injury. The 49ers since week 2 are officially a tier 1 football team. You want to be as far to the right and as far up as possible on this chart. And look, the 49ers are essentially balanced between offense, which is x-axis, and defense, which is y-axis. They're there with the Cowboys and with the Eagles, all teams with really similar efficiency profiles. But you see that the 49ers are in tier 1 alongside the defending AFC champion Bengals and obviously the Kansas City Chiefs. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tier 1 teams. 49ers are right there. And then you look and you have tier 2 teams, 2 of them, the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. So this is the tier 1 49ers against the tier 2 Miami Dolphins coming up this week. And the 49ers are 3.5 point favorites for a reason because that defense is better than the Dolphins defense. The Dolphins offense has scored a little bit better than the 49ers offense. The Dolphins offense is a supercharged offense. 49ers offense is a good offense, maybe supercharged if they can deliver some better pass protection than they did against the New Orleans Saints. But this one's lining up to be a real barn burner. Miami can challenge the 49ers, but it looks like the 49ers are slightly better. So that's my take on this game. And it is entertaining that the Dolphins are starting to talk some smack. Deebo Samuel, though, did clap back at Raheem Mostert. 13 nothing. When was it? I mean, 13 nothing is a domination. I don't know if you're trying to say that it wasn't. You shut out the opposing team and you won by 2 possessions. It's as dominant as you can expect in the National Football League. Yeah, so supposedly there might have been some clickbait with the Mostert interview. Supposedly Mostert was praising the 49ers a lot and they only took some of the quotes out of context, and Mostert said he was upset about that. Debo Samuel though was like, "Come on, Raheem, what are you talking about today?" on Twitter. So it's going to be fascinating. I mean, football players are going to make up motivation, right? Do you remember when Jimmy Garoppolo no, sorry, not Jimmy Garoppolo, Richard Sherman. Do you remember when Richard Sherman totally fabricated the notion that Baker Mayfield disrespected him at the pregame coin toss? He's like, Baker didn't even shake my hand. And then there was actual footage of Baker Mayfield shaking Richard Sherman's hand. I thought that was really funny. It was on Monday Night Football, Week 5, 2019. Richard Sherman literally made up disrespect. He fabricated disrespect in his head to get himself motivated to play the Browns that week. Oh yeah, Baker didn't shake my hand. He disrespected me. This guy's a punk. I want to go out and I need to get some revenge in this game. Well, footage came out later that Baker Mayfield did actually shake Richard Sherman's hand, but who cares? It just gives you a little bit of insight into how football players think. They're playing a brutal sport. They're going out there. They got to put their bodies on the line. You have to get yourself mentally jazzed up to play these games. And sometimes you got to be creative about it. Now, Richard Sherman, I mean, he was cutting edge as far as the mental edge went, right? And he did that by fabricating a little bit of disrespect. So maybe Raheem Mostert, maybe Debo Samuel, maybe Jeff Wilson, maybe everybody is fabricating a little bit of disrespect in their heads so they can get up for this big game, 49ers and Dolphins. I think that Mike right here, when he's talking about that hit looked awful, is talking about the hit against Jimmy Garoppolo, and it did look bad, and Garoppolo looked like he was in a lot of pain. Official called the personal foul penalty. The 49ers thought there was a lot of questionable hits. Jimmy Garoppolo was upset about this after the game. They thought the Saints were playing a little bit of dirty football against the 49ers. And we'll see the injury report here from Kyle Shanahan in 3 hours. But the 49ers can cross their fingers that Garoppolo stays healthy, that it's only, I put only in parentheses, a mild MCL sprain or nothing at all, something of that sort. You obviously don't want to have an ACL. Though I think the 49ers are confident that it wasn't that. Garoppolo stayed in the game yesterday, continued doing good stuff for them down the stretch, but it was awfully close to being something devastating for the 49ers because Jimmy Garoppolo is their season right now, right? Jimmy Garoppolo is playing top 3 football at the quarterback position. Somebody said something completely silly yesterday. Oh, the 49ers would be playing just as well with Trey Lance as their quarterback. It's like, what are you talking about? This is the problem with the internet. People think that you could have just plugged Trey Lance into the 49ers offense and expected top 3 efficiency from him in his first year starting. The 49ers didn't even expect that. The 49ers and Shanahan were talking at the start of the year about how the defense was going to have to lead the way, that, Trey was going to have to develop, that he was a raw prospect, which is all true, which is all obvious to anybody with a set of eyes and a brain, right? That Trey Lance was going to have to ease into this for the 49ers. We saw how much the 49ers were running early in the season because they were still trying to develop Trey Lance as a passer. Never in their wildest dreams the 49ers have expected Trey Lance to be a top 3 efficiency quarterback at this point of the season, but that's what Jimmy Garoppolo is giving them, right? Jimmy has improved. He's taken this to the next level. He's cut the interception rate. The efficiency is at the top of the league. It's right up there with Mahomes and Tua, Josh Allen, all those guys. And for the 49ers, this has been an extreme blessing. That's why they're so thankful that Jimmy Garoppolo has come back to this team. Now, they were about to lose it on that hit, and that's why everybody was so worried. That's why everybody was so pissed off about it. They thought that it was a dirty hit, and it almost knocked Garoppolo out of the game, and if he misses extended time, well, that's going to be bad for the 49ers because this team is being driven by excellent defense and excellent quarterback play, period. And they're lucky to have that quarterback play from somebody who started the season as their backup QB. So this is, some of the takes on the quarterback position are just so bad, right? And it's impressive how quickly a lot of the bad takes are dying. Like, we look back at, oh, Jimmy can't throw outside the numbers. Well, what was that throw to Ray McLeod as David Onyemata blew him up yesterday? Outside the numbers, 3rd and long, big-ass defensive tackle, just destroying Jimmy Garoppolo, right, on the play, and he still gets the throw out there outside the numbers for the completion. The release, super quick, as always, hits Jawan Jennings several times on throws that move the chains that the 49ers need, right, to just move forward in this game, to fuel the possession battle, which they need to keep that defense rested. I mean, it's been week after week after week of excellent 3rd down conversions from Jimmy Garoppolo that other quarterbacks around the league are not converting. Most other quarterbacks aren't doing what Jimmy Garoppolo is doing successfully right now. You've only got 2 that have been more efficient than him, and that's Mahomes and Tua in Miami. And so we're going to see Tua next week for the 49ers and Dolphins. And that's going to be a heck of a barn burner, I think, because whenever you have quarterback play as good as we've seen from both quarterbacks participating in next week's game, you usually have a fiery clash. It's going to be a lot of fun in 49ers and Dolphins. Any update on Trey Lance rehab? Well, Lance was throwing the football around a little bit, just casually on the field yesterday, so I think it's going well. It's progressing at the schedule that the 49ers wanted it to progress. The thing is, this was a major ankle injury. Like John Lynch said, he did a number on his ankle, and that's why the 49ers aren't expecting Trey Lance to be ready for this year, but they do expect him ready for next season's offseason program. That's 2023. Computer enthusiast says Jimmy Garoppolo has been taking too many hits. He needs to get. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo needs to get rid of the ball quicker. Are you kidding me? Jimmy Garoppolo gets rid of the ball more quickly than any other QB in the league. That's his strength. If Jimmy Garoppolo is taking too many hits, it's because the offensive line is allowing too much pressure. Listen to this. The 49ers gave up 20 pressures yesterday. There was not a single drop back passing sack. Not a single sack. You know who gets credit for that? Jimmy Garoppolo, for getting the ball out quickly. This attitude of blaming Jimmy Garoppolo for every single thing is completely preposterous. It's not. I mean, we sit here and we're trying to deliver unbiased reviews of the game, right? But there is a tendency to blame the quarterback for everything. And I get it. It's probably this way with every single team, but I don't care. I don't like it anyway, because I'm here for fair analysis. And if you say that Jimmy Garoppolo needs to get rid of the ball quicker when he literally did not get sacked yesterday, there was one technical sack, right? But that was on a run. That was on a design run. It was a bad call at the goal line. Didn't work. They were trying to sneak attack. But he literally didn't get sacked despite the fact that he was being harassed all day, and the 49ers had their worst pass protecting performance of the season. Jimmy Garoppolo accomplished the art of getting the ball out quickly yesterday, over and over and over again. That was the strength of his performance. And then we have people coming out here and saying he needs to get rid of the ball quicker. It's like, it should make your head explode if you're just into fair analysis of a game, right? Because that's not the truth. People feel a certain way about Jimmy Garoppolo, so they ascribe certain conclusions about his play that are just the complete opposite of truth. That's why I always say we do facts over feelings. There's a lot of feelings over facts these days. We got to do facts over feelings. And the fact is that he's been a top 3 efficiency quarterback, and he gets the ball out very quickly. Yesterday was a really good game for Jimmy Garoppolo. You absolutely have to credit the Saints D-line. Saints D-line was really good. And again, the 49ers O-line was playing shorthanded yesterday as far as rest went, right? 6 days of rest instead of the full 7. So that altitude, coming from Colorado Springs, Mexico City, all that stuff. It was no surprise the 49ers were weaker along the trenches yesterday. Only 1 sack for their D-line, because that's where you hurt. That's where you hurt on a short week coming off altitude, is at the positions of true physical combat. 49ers, I don't want to say got bailed out, but you probably could say that, and it would be accurate. Got bailed out by Garoppolo, their skill position players, by their defense, obviously. That was finding out ways to make that shutout work, despite not having an overwhelming presence along the defensive line. I thought Drake Jackson had a really impressive tackle for loss yesterday. That was big for the 49ers. So, I mean, Drake is coming along. Drake is a rookie, right? He's not going to be as good as some of these veterans in that, especially as you get later in the year. The college season's only 12 games long. The 49ers are 7-4. They've already played 11. So this would be the end of his college season. Drake Jackson's going to have to dig deep and find a second win to finish the season up strong, just like any rookie. It's a tough adjustment moving to the NFL, but I've been impressed with his attitude and why he's been playing it really well. Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate you. I mean, it's just not true. The 49ers win because of Jimmy Garoppolo. They don't win in spite of him. The two most efficient third down quarterbacks in football since 2017, Patrick Mahomes and Jimmy Garoppolo. 49ers are unable to run as well as they did in 2019 and 2021 if Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't delivering the third down efficiency that he did. And now this year, it is on full display, folks. They have the number 3 pass offense efficiency in football and the number 17 run offense efficiency. The best part of this 49ers offense is the pass game. The quarterback is Jimmy Garoppolo. Start giving the man accurate credit. Leave your feelings at the door. Embrace the truth. The truth has been there all along. And the truth with Jimmy Garoppolo has been that he's been hurt a lot. And he almost got hurt again yesterday through no fault of his own. But listen to what Lynch and Shanahan say about the guy. The only issue has been availability. He's efficient when he's available, and the 49ers win when he's available. They're not efficient, and they lose when he's not. I mean, it's simple, black and white. Now, are there improvements that Jimmy Garoppolo has needed to make in his game to take the 49ers to a new level of efficiency? Of course. And the biggest improvement they needed to make, and he needed to make, was the interception rate. He needed to lower that interception rate. Because what you have in Jimmy Garoppolo is you have the rare case of a gunslinger at short range. He's not a risk-free game manager. He's a guy that tries to fit the ball into tight windows because he's got an ultra-quick release. His bread and butter is firing over the middle of the field. And he's got the arm talent to throw outside the numbers. We've seen plenty of that. But the 49ers have a yak-based offense. They have the personnel to deliver yards after the catch. You don't want to use the sideline as much in a yak-based offense because the sideline acts as a 12th defender. 12th man, Seahawks joke. So you try to throw over the middle, and Shanahan choreographs it, and Jimmy Garoppolo tries to make some really tough throws over the middle of the field. That in the past had led to a higher than average interception rate because he's really pushing it on some of these throws, right? And he had the weakness of not seeing that underneath linebacker on select plays. Well, that's what Jimmy Garoppolo has cut out this season. By and large, he's cut that out this season. He's not forcing the passes over the middle. He's throwing it away more often, and the interception rate has plummeted. So the efficiency has gone even further up. It was already good, but now the efficiency is top 3 because the INT rate's like 1.3% for Jimmy Garoppolo, which is top 5 in the National Football League. So they're winning because of him. They're also winning because of their defense. They're also winning because, in general, they have good pass protection. They didn't have it yesterday. But, this whole idea that you have to just find one person or one entity to credit, like the 49ers defense for a win, and then say that everybody else was trash just doesn't reflect reality. It doesn't. And this year, the 49ers have a good defense and a good quarterback. They're getting both of those things, delivering, firing at the same time right now. And that's how they won 4 games despite some other weaknesses around the roster. 4 games in a row. They went from 3-4 to 7-4. They're at 7-4 right now. Yeah, he's hands down saving the 49ers season. Shows up on a backup contract with incentives, thrown in there cold turkey in week 2, and his top 3 efficiency right now. That's as simple as it is from Jimmy Garoppolo. All right. Ambry Thomas has been on the bench. Ambry Thomas has not been playing for the 49ers. He is next in line in that cornerback position, though. They're starting to go through some of that depth now with Diamada Lenore starting. I mean, maybe Samuel Womack is technically next in line, but you get the idea. Really quickly, you're going to have to get down to Ambry Thomas if there are other injuries for the 49ers. The Garoppolo disrespect at this point is just desperation. It's not the majority view. It's a fringe view. And it's just like, it doesn't make any sense. And it's very emotionally driven. It's not factually driven. I could show you the facts all day. Again, it's Tua, Mahomes, Garoppolo, Burrow, Allen. Those are your top 5 guys this year as far as efficiency goes. And Don't even start with, oh, he's getting a lot of yards after the catch. You know who has the most yards after the catch from his receivers in the NFL this year? Patrick Mahomes. Nobody's denigrating Patrick Mahomes for yards after the catch. Yak is a QB stat because a QB has to deliver accurately. First third down conversion of the game yesterday was a great throw from Garoppolo to Deebo Samuel. Led him, hit him in stride, allowed for Yak. Quarterbacks should get credit for Yak. If they didn't, then Joe Montana would not be in the Hall of Fame. Simple as that. So people who ignore the fact that football is a cohesive team sport where the play call and the quarterback and the receivers all have to cohesively operate, they don't understand. They just don't. So that's my spiel. But Mahomes does have Travis Kelce. Yeah, Garoppolo's toughness showed yesterday with all the hits he was taking. The O-line needs to do better or the season could be over. I mean, Juanito right here has the best take of the day here in the comment section. There's a lot of good takes there. I don't want to discredit anybody, but this is it. You have to protect Garoppolo. You have to protect your top 5 quarterback. If you're getting this kind of play from him, even when he's under duress, God, just imagine how quickly this would slide down the toilet if Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt. The 49ers really need to keep him healthy. And as always, as it has over the past several seasons, this comes down to O-line play for the 49ers. Stood tall, took shots knowing he was going to get hit hard. Impressive. And he's been doing that his whole career too. He's been hanging in there. I don't think that sorry, I accidentally put this up, but if the 49ers win the Super Bowl, I think they're going to keep Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Mike McGlinchey was a lot better yesterday. He only gave up pressure. Only one pressure. It was mainly interior pressure. 12 of the 20 pressures the 49ers gave up yesterday came from Saints defensive tackles. Has Jimmy changed his durability in the offseason? Funky question, but I get it. He has increased his lower body strength because he couldn't work out with the shoulder, the upper body strength. He really built a better base, and I think that probably has helped with some of the durability. Maybe it helped him avoid a serious injury on that dirty hit yesterday that he was upset about. Yeah, Banks did not have a good game. He gave up 7 pressures. But remember, Banks has yet to give up a sack all year. You got to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think the reason why the offensive line struggled is they were on short rest. They're coming off an altitude game, and they're playing a good Saints defensive line. Remember the 49ers defense had a bad game against the Chiefs, and we said it was an aberration, and now it's looking like it was, and they have a chance to prove that it was against the Dolphins coming up this next Sunday. Well, maybe the 49ers pass protection, which had generally been good, much improved this year, maybe that was an aberration against the Saints because of the reasons that I just outlined. You have to give them a chance. You have to zoom out. You have to look at the big picture in that regard. I don't have a score prediction for 49ers Dolphins yet. All right, guys, I'm going to call this one I'm going to call it a show here in a second. 49ers are 7-4. They're in command of the NFC West. We talked for an hour. It was fun. Those of you who are still around, make sure that you check out. I mean, I got the team tier chart here, but most importantly, I have my article from the game up on The Athletic. Check out the comment section for that. Oops, don't want that. Check out the comment section for the link to this, and also check out the description. Make sure you do subscribe to The Athletic while you're there. This has been Lombardi's Look Back. I think that was potentially the 49ers' most complete showing of 2022. Their positive offense, defense, and special teams EPA. You can't automatically equate 13 points with bad QB play. Jimmy Garoppolo was very good yesterday, but the 49ers just gave him too much interior pressure. Aaron Banks had 7 of those pressures. He's got to be better. He has been better, and maybe it was just a short week that really hurt the 49ers up front because, hell, Contavious Street, their former player, had 5 pressures. 12, with all that interior pressure coming against Jimmy Garoppolo, it was actually good news for the 49ers that Garoppolo played really well because that had normally been his kryptonite in the past. So that was an arrow up for the 49ers QB, who's been so good for them this season. It's going to be interesting to hear Kyle Shanahan talk about the injuries here in a couple hours. We'll see if he does help stabilize the 49ers offense, if Daniel Brunskill helps stabilize the 49ers offensive line, because Spencer Burford might be out for some time at right guard. On the defensive side, they shut out the Saints for the first time in 333 games. That streak had been the longest in the NFL, had dated back to 2001, the finale of that 2001 season. And a lot of it was because of Fred Warner, who had a pass breakup in the end zone, who had a great blitz on third down. D'Amico Ryans deserves a hat tip as well. Fred Warner was a monster, and the 49ers might be getting Eric Armstead back soon to be even better. And then Charvarius Ward and Jimmy Ward both did some good stuff. I was talking a bit about Jimmy Ward earlier. He just needed some time to get acclimated to the slot cornerback position, and it looks like that acclimatization is indeed happening. And Dre Greenlaw, he's playing really well. I think Diomeda Lenore is improving week by week as well. Anyway, this has been Lombardi's Look Back. Everybody, thanks for joining. Make sure you check out the article. Put it back up on the screen really quickly. It's up on The Athletic. Subscribe over there. Like the video. Sub to this channel. It's been a good hour. Everybody have a good lunch. We'll talk to you soon.